There I am. All right. So, welcome to Follow the Joy using the Neurorelational Framework. I am going to be talking about how to use joy to as like the speedway for helping children with their development. And first, I'm just going to acknowledge that developmental challenges that may come from trauma, may come from neurodivergence. Developmental challenges can come from all different directions. But it's usually the case that they create a lot of threat in a nervous system because our society is not very tolerant of divergence or difference. And we really require people, in order to make money and be successful, to not have those, right? So I believe that every child is born perfect, and that does not mean that they're going to negotiate our society very well. And so that is what therapy is for. So, because we are not, it may be because of organic challenges, or it may be because of interacting with our world that doesn't think that, doesn't make it easy for them. A lot of times, these developmental challenges will wire the brain for threat. And that means that will accustom the brain to threat, where children will feel unsafe in the world. And joy has the wonderful distinction of wiring the brain for safety. So you may know of children who are wired for threat, and they are seem to always be in threat, or almost always, or very often in threat. And some of these kids don't feel comfortable in safety. They don't feel comfortable with status quo, and they get a threat response when things seem calm. And so while safety may be rejected, and status quo may be rejected, and calm may be rejected, joy is extremely tantalizing. And we can use this to our advantage for these children who are wired for threat, to turn their wiring around, to wire them for safety. And why do we want to do that? Safety promotes engagement, and engagement promotes development. So our health, mental health, and physical health are all very enhanced by regular bouts of joy. So let's start with talking about safety. Our nervous system's foundation of safety is sleep. So whenever with the neurorelational framework, whenever we start working with a parent and child, we ask, how is the sleep? And we assess the sleep. Because if you're not getting good sleep, it's going to be very hard to do anything else. And sleep takes safety. So think of sleep as having five, or nervous systems. Think of our nervous system as having five sleep states. Even though being drowsy isn't really sleeping, it's it's required. You need a little bit of safety in order to get drowsy. So you know that there are these kids who they just never get drowsy because they've had so much threat in their nervous systems, and they just pass out. We want drowsiness. We want enough safety in the nervous system so that they get the full cycle of drowsy, and then they need a little bit more safety in order to get to sleep. They need a little bit more safety to get from light to dreaming. They need even more safety to get from dreaming to deep sleep. And it takes a lot of safety to maintain deep sleep and get the amount that we need. So we're not just looking at how much sleep, we also want the quality of sleep, and we want good deep sleep. That is a sign of safety in the nervous system, that you're getting plenty of deep sleep. The next question I get from here is, well, how do we get these kids to sleep? If they're running on threat and they're not sleeping, what do we do? And the answer is, about a bajillion things can help a child sleep. My favorite thing to think about, I mean, there's lots and lots, like how's the quality of the bed? Where is it cold? Get a cold room. That can really help a child not want to get out of bed. And it also helps quality of sleep. There's all kinds of things you can do. But how do you increase safety at night? My number one answer is to increase safety during the day. Now, you don't have to. Again, there are lots of other things you can do. And the really nice thing about increasing safety in a nervous system is that you have so many options. There are so many different ways to bring safety in. But my favorite way, like I said, is to increase safety during the day because then you get you get better sleep at night and you get more safety during the day. So let's look at these nervous system awake states. Again, there are 5 nervous system awake states. We have the green zone, which is the just right place where you have the brake of the nervous system and the gas working symbiotically, working in tandem, and you have a nice balance of those. Fine, flow, freedom are the F words for the green zone. And then we have this red zone, the gas pedal. And most of the time, we think about red zone as fight flight. And, that's where we gather energy to solve a problem, and our body gets tighter and it gets faster because you need speed, you need strength to fight and flee. And then our our nervous system has the brake side of the nervous system, the blue zone. That's when we shut down. That's when the F words are flop, flat, and freeze, the dissociated kind of freeze. And then we have this combination of the two, gas and brake, and they're both on at the same time. So it's like you got some red zone and you've got the fight flight going, but you got to keep yourself under control. So you'll get some blue to calm yourself down, but then you're really just in combo. And I call that deer in the headlights, where you have a functional freeze, even though deer in the headlights, they're not very functional. But functional freeze is like you look green, you look like you're okay, kind of, and you're getting through the day, but you don't want to be red because that's too much, and you don't want to be blue because, like, not getting out of bed is not an option. So you've got some red zone to push you into that combo zone, and you can function. So oftentimes our kids spend a lot of time in combo because their parents and teachers will not let them be blue and just let the world pass them by. They have to do things. And our parents and teachers don't want them to be red and, in fight flight. They don't like them eloping and they don't like them fighting. So combo is sort of an acceptable way for them to be stressed. And a lot of parents and teachers are spending a lot of time in combo as well. They're stressed and they're just trying to get through the day, and they've got too much gas going and too much brake going at the same time. Fawn, flock, functional freeze, flight, or fright. And then we have my favorite, the positive red zone. And that's the zone where we are feeling possibly in a good mood, we're happy, or the child is happy, but in a child's world, it's bouncing off of walls, not listening, just going nuts, frenzied. And as an adult, oftentimes that's where we're rushing, and trying to get everything done. And we might be in a good mood, but it's still stress and it's too much gas to be sustainable. So what we do in the neurorelational framework is we look for these stress patterns so that we can see what we can do to interrupt them. So let's say a good example of a child, you say no, there's a boundary, and the child goes, what? And then they go straight to the negative red zone and they scream or cry or yell or kick or hit or bite or scratch. And then they go blue once that plays itself out. And then they slump and want to be held. And oftentimes parents don't feel like holding them at that time. but that's what they're looking for often is connection so that they can get back into the green zone. That's a pretty common child pattern. So just as an example, what if it's, or how do we know if it's toxic stress? So stress is the biggest killer of our time. It wreaks havoc on our mental health and our physical health. And in our culture, neither one of those are doing well in general for our population. So it's really helpful to notice when somebody's in toxic stress, and then that's who we triage. That's right. If I'm in toxic stress, I need to do something about that. Toxic stress is when it's too frequent, it's happening too often, it comes too quickly. You go from 0 to 60 and it happens too intensely. So that means the stress hormones are either frequent, quick, intense, and oftentimes it's all three. And those hormones happening that much in our systems is just not healthy. Too long to recover is another toxic stress pattern. Those stress hormones are just sitting there, causing wear and tear on our brains and bodies. Happening with transitions, that's toxic stress pattern number 3. If you notice kids are just not transitioning well, and they are having big blow-ups or going blue or combo because a transition is happening, we know that there's toxic stress going on there. And then the 4th one, and the most concerning, is poor recovery to green zone, where the child just does not ever seem to be green, or just really rarely seems to be green. Or adults, toxic stress is also concerning. So that's where we in the neurorelational framework focus our attention on finding out if it's toxic stress, and then working on reducing that stress and increasing relational joy. And that's the North Star of everything we do with children. And what we encourage people to do is look at the awake states. Are you going to change your child's clothes? Are they in green? How do we change your child's clothes in a way that they're not screaming? Because that's not healthy. That's toxic stress to just have a child all day screaming because of these kinds of, transitions. Feeding, is the child in green? Is there relational joy happening? At the doctor's office, it matters. Like oftentimes we just push through with these procedures, and we need to, as much as possible, focus on those awake states. It matters how children feel. At school, it matters how children feel. All day, we want teachers to be watching those awake states. How does the child feel, and what can we do to adjust so that they're in the green zone, so that they're experiencing joy, regular bouts of joy? Homework should be joyful. It should never be something that is a fight. That's not developmentally appropriate to have homework that you don't know how to do and get frustrated about. It should be all these things, especially if, and a lot of children are, you have a kid in toxic stress. The awake states are your North Star, and that we're going to orient to those. We're always going to orient to, how does my child feel? How does this child feel? It matters. So sometimes when I say joy, I worry that people are thinking that I mean keep the child entertained and happy all the time, and you feel like you're just tap dancing and using up a lot of your energy. And that's not sustainable. So what is joy? What am I talking about when I say joy? Joy is a lot of things. And if you look at these pictures, everybody's not smiling necessarily, but it's like this engagement, this enjoyable engagement. And they are micro moments. They do not have to be sustained for long periods of time. Joy is happening regularly. Like one time I was just out and I went to the grocery store and I was like looking for joy just to see how often am I going to see joy? And it was constant. A little laughter at the cash register, a little somebody walking by saying doo doo doo. I mean, it's just a normal thing. It is our natural state of being. When you remove stress, joy bubbles up. So you don't have to be entertaining a child all the time to keep them in joy. We just have to get them to their natural state by removing the amount of stress that is inhibiting that joy. But don't think that it's the adult version of joy. Because the adult version of joy, the way we think of joy, it's like this executive focused joy where um so the neurorelational framework uses four brain systems to classify all the brain systems that we have, which is a lot, into our body. So if you think about this adult here working and experiencing joy at work, she's regulating her body, her nervous system's non-voluntary, involuntary processes with coffee, keeping herself regulated there. And then there's the sensory brain network where, she's got her coffee and it probably tastes really good. And she's got her social emotional brain system going, probably on email and talking on the phone and interacting and connecting with people. So their emotions are regulated. And then the executive system. That is this system of what we're doing, what we can see people doing and thinking is the executive system. And that's what adults focus on when they're thinking about how am I going to get joyful? Well, what am I going to do? That is not how it is for kids. We are not at needing to focus all on the executive system for kids. And that's what we do. It's for us, we're thinking about always what are the kids doing and what do they need to be doing? No, 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 no. The executive system is a great way for adults to get joy and kids, but kids don't need you to take them, spend all this money taking them skiing. Kids don't need dinner parties and going out to movies and screens and things like that to get joy. That's how adults think about joy. Kids, it's full brain focused joy. So you've got all of these brain systems firing and wiring, and it's an orchestra of all of the things happening at once. And it's so simple, like just do some dishes and make sure there's enough suds. Like I could not find a picture on the internet with enough suds. This was the best I could do. That's not enough suds. You should be going through your dishwashing liquid at least once a month. So I say you don't have to spend money, but yeah, on dishwashing liquid, you have to spend money. And doing with children love doing things with you. So that your most mundane tasks happening together is a huge recipe for joy. And slow it down for sensory love, like the experience of pulling warm clothes out of the dryer, right? This is joy. Joy is in the details. And your whole family life, if you only focus on slowing down and in having sensory joy happening, those kids who have a lot of sensory defensiveness, how do they grow out of that? How do they build sensory filters? By having rich sensory experiences, by not rushing them through their day, going from one thing to the other, but by slowing down and having them really be able to linger on their sensory experience and enjoy it. That is how they build those sensory filters to be able to handle sensory experiences. So, is the task satisfying? Is it at their level? Is it something they can do? Is the relationship satisfying in this task? Are you micromanaging them or are you enjoying them? Does the body feel good on the outside? Are they feeling the warmth of the clothes? Are they, as they're learning to fold? Is there are there soft things? Are there, like I said, suds, lots of suds? And does the body feel good on the inside? Are they regulated? How are their awake states mainly? So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about joy. I'm not talking about spending more money. I'm not talking about entertaining kids. I'm talking about replacing the rushing and the moving from thing to thing with life, the mundane things of life, and using that for joy. Focusing on those awake states, caring about what they feel like on the inside. So it's not go wash the bathroom and then I don't feel like it. Oh, well, let's see what we can do to help you feel good so that washing the bathroom is a joyful experience. Let me do it with you. Let's turn on the music. Let's have a bucket of really warm, sudsy water when we're washing. Do you want to do the spray? All those things. So we are doing some paradigm shifting when we think about joy. And one of the things we want to do is, in order to be able to really maximize joy for development, is to remove the joy inhibiting, or lessen, I'll say, the joy inhibiting approaches. One of the joy inhibiting ways we think about children and child raising and classrooms is managing children. And that's really not going to promote joy if you're thinking about how to manage children. The Evolved Nest, this lovely book that I highly recommend, talks about how to use the day-to-day to nurture children. So we go from managing them to really spending the sensory and relational energy into nurturing children.